So now we're going to look at the third case, which of course is Travis Decker. Now, this has started quite a lot. This is a couple of months, isn't it? This has been going on. How long is it going to go on for? We don't know. So these are Travis Decker's daughters, Paityn, Olivia and Evelyn, young girls. Allegedly, really, because it hasn't been proven, although the police are not looking for anybody else in connection with the murder of these three girls who had their hands tied behind their back with ties, those thingy ties, and plastic bags put over their head. And it's thought that their own father, Travis Decker, who had picked them up for a couple of hours, he had, I can't even call it custody really, because he was allowed to have them for a couple of hours, wasn't he? And he picked them up for a couple of hours and just didn't return them. So the mum, Whitney, got worried, phoned the police. And when the police looked for Travis and the girls, they found the three girls deceased, murdered in a very brutal way. And it's thought that he did it because there was no other DNA at the scene except for the girls and for Travis's DNA. And he left his dog there. The dog was alive. So left the dog alive and murdered his children, allegedly. And since then, he has never been seen. Now, there's been false sightings of him, but he has actually never been seen. But when the Devil's Den murders happened, quite a distance away from where Travis Decker was last seen, but not, at the end of the day, people can travel around, can't they? And it was thought that there was a possibility, like we discussed it, I thought it straight away, but I find from these videos that I'm going to show you now, even the police chief thought there was a possibility. Lots of people contacted him about it, because these people that you see on these hiking trails, with the way they're dressed up for hiking and that, quite often they look very similar, don't they? So it's easy to mistake someone. And we're going to have a look as well at a guy being interviewed who he was one of, because there's been two previous suspected sightings that turned out to be nothing. And of course, the police have to investigate. If I phoned up and said I'd seen them, the police have got to investigate sightings, haven't they? If I'd been on the trail, I mean, obviously not if I phoned up from Spain, but if I'd been on that trail and I thought I'd seen Travis, the police have to investigate it. They can't just say, oh no, it probably wasn't him. They've got to investigate every tip that they get. So they've just recently had another one. This will be the third one. But we're going to see a guy being interviewed who he was one of the ones, that was thought to be Travis. So we're going to get his point of view as well. It's quite interesting, actually. So, okay, where are we going to start? Actually, I'm going to put some windows down. Before I do anything, I'm going to put some windows down. Oh yeah, and don't forget at the end, I just want to don't forget to watch to the end, because then you'll get to find out what this is all about. This is what you've got to look forward to. So after these sort of, crime stories are always a bit doom and gloom, we're going to be looking at a bit of a lighter story at the end, if you can face it. Make sure you're not having your lunch at the time, that's all. We are going to be looking at what this story is all about. So, first of all, let's look at the sheriff. The very handsome sheriff, the Richard Gere lookalike sheriff that is in charge of this operation. Gosh, he's a very good looking guy, isn't he? Very, very handsome. I know that's got nothing to do with it. It's just a human thing that I'm saying. He's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. We'll look to see what he's got to say about this latest sighting.
Ex-Army infantryman who picked up his little girls ages 9, 8, and 5 from their mom's house in late May and allegedly murdered them soon after.
So don't forget, his ex-army is supposed to have some skills in survivalism, etc. So it's thought that he would be capable of living in the wild, but is he still alive? Is he, or is he deceased somewhere? And then somebody left a comment on one of my videos about a case that I'd never heard of, Jeremiah Button, who apparently was another guy that was on the run, and he was on the run for 2 years or something. I am definitely going to highlight that in a video. And nobody knew what had happened to him. He was on the run for incest and some various sex charges. And he just turned up, and he'd been hiding all that time in a bunker. Is Travis in a bunker?
Their bodies were found with plastic bags over their heads at a campground in Washington State. And Decker hasn't been seen since, maybe because he too is dead by his own hands or otherwise, but maybe because somebody's helping him stay alive, helping him stay invisible. And that brings me to the lawman overseeing the search for Travis Decker in Washington State, Chelan County Sheriff Mike Morrison. Welcome back to the program, trying to figure out exactly what's going on here and why we can't find him. So why are you so convinced that Decker probably has help out there? Is that just a working theory, or do you have information to support it?
Yeah, it's a working theory. It's certainly something we've taken consideration, and we really appreciate the U.S. Marshal Service still taking points, overseeing the search outside. We did have our swiftwater rescue team was out yesterday on the creek, still searching the area in the case that he is deceased, but we're still taking consideration as a possibility he's out there. And if that's the case, someone's assisting him.
What are some of the scenarios that you can run through with us? His friends or some anti-police types are helping him, or maybe he's forcing someone to help him hide. Out of all of those scenarios, what do you think is most likely?
Well, there's always individuals out there just sympathetic to those in need or those facing challenges. I think we look back towards Ted Bundy. There were people reaching out to him when he was in prison, wanting to have relationships with him. So, we understand that there are individuals out there who will oversee evil, and we'll try to support those individuals. And we're not in support of that. So, we're certainly looking for the public's help. We understand the majority of our county, state, and nation are not those kind of individuals, but there are a small percentage out there that may be out there assisting him. And we want to make sure that if that is the case, we have as many people as possible working against them.
Do you get a...
Yeah, that's interesting what he says, isn't it? There are people out there that will help people like him. Now, I don't personally think, you think, God, who would help someone who'd murdered 3 daughters? And that's what I've said, David. What you said, I've said it right from the beginning. I think he is deceased, but why he's not around close by where the girls are, but maybe he's closer than they think. Maybe they just haven't found him. Maybe he's in the water, because there's a river nearby, isn't there? And that, but yeah, I would have thought they'd all be found together. And then, of course, if it wasn't for the fact that only his DNA has been found on the scene, this part of me thinks, well, maybe he didn't do it. Would he have, maybe somebody else did it, but what was he doing there? And the police say that it's only his DNA that they've found at the scene and on the plastic bags that were over the girls' heads, etc. So, you can't imagine it. You can't envisage that a father could do that, but unfortunately, they do things like that. So I think we have to presume, after what the police said about the DNA and everything, there it was him who did it. But then where is he? And if he is on the run, well, what's the point of it? Has he gone to Canada? Because he talks about going to Canada. I can't see, surely he wouldn't go to another part of America. what would be the point of that? What does he think he's just going to be on the run forever? You know, it's a real mystery, isn't it? Where is he? Surely nobody's helping him. Who would help him? Who would help him after he'd murdered, you know, his 3 daughters? Now you can see that sometimes, you know, anti-state people might, like if he'd robbed a bank or if he'd done credit card fraud or, you know, something, or some, even terrorism, you know, because anti the state, you can see there'd be people out there that might, you know, support him because, but surely not. Nobody would support somebody who'd killed those 3 little innocent girls. You know, surely not. Unless there's a what, you know, women. Quite often, sorry, women, unfortunately, it makes me ashamed to be a woman sometimes. Like he was saying about Ted Bundy, lots of, you know, famous, if you like, or infamous killers end up with a fan club, don't they? Not just women, to be honest, men as well. You know, school shooters get a little fan club, don't they, of other disaffected teenagers who think they're brilliant, you know. So maybe that, but do people really ever get a fan club if they've killed little children like that? Has Chris Watts got a fan club? I don't know. Well, there's definitely an anti-Shannon movement, isn't there? You know, his wife that Chris Watts killed. You know, everyone seems to think it's her fault. Or not everyone, but a lot of idiots out there. You know, as if it's got anything to do with her, even if she was bossy, even if she was this, that, or the other. He did it. He did it. She didn't do it. So, you know, you do get that. I appreciate that. But maybe it's just I can't get my head around anybody would support somebody who had murdered 3 little girls.
Sense from all the law enforcement involved here and yourself that he is still in your area, assuming he's alive. I understand you're 90 miles from the Canadian border. So when we take a look at the map and the scenarios, you think he's still around?
There's the potential there. I mean, but we're still getting calls coming in. I saw you just covering the Arkansas case, and we have some individuals reaching out to us just based off the sketch that was provided that they're 100% positive it was Travis. So.
Well, there you go. So it wasn't just me that was thinking that, because I said, straight away, I thought, oh, God, that looks like Travis. You know, the sketch, the baseball cap, the fact that, you know, you think how many nutters are there walking around national parks? So, you know, they obviously got lots of people ringing up and saying, oh, this must be Travis. But it wasn't Travis, was it? It was another twonk altogether. There were more than one twonk wandering around National Park.
We're going to continue to follow up on leads. I really congratulate law enforcement on their work down there in Arkansas for taking that suspect into custody, making their community safer. And we just had our agency to the north of us up there in Okanagan County with Sheriff Boudreaux that just found the remains of their homicide suspect from 3 years ago. That was also a grisly murder, but you brought closure to the community, and that's what we're looking for here for Chelan County.
Yeah, what was that? I need to look at that case, because he was saying that somewhere they just found the remains of a homicide suspect from 3 years ago or something. Just go back. And yeah, I agree with you, David. He could be anywhere, couldn't he? He could be absolutely anywhere, like Rachel's killer, Victor the Viper. He travelled all the way around America. And it's funny, isn't it, really? Because, of course, you know, in America, there's all these problems at the moment over immigrants and stuff, and they shouldn't be able to travel between states. But he's not an immigrant. He could travel across state boundaries. Maybe states should have a passport control, for not only for immigrants, but for everybody. Do you know what I mean? You know, he's him, any other killer, whether they're American, immigrant, or whatever they are, can just travel around America with impunity. And America is a bloody massive place. And Rachel Marin's killer managed to do it. He didn't even have a car. He did it on Greyhound buses, etc. So, you know, maybe they could tighten up everybody's passport. Well, not passport control, but, you know, the control for everybody to travel between states. Because, of course, what's the first thing you would do if you committed a crime in a certain state in America? You'd go over to another state. Of course you would. That's just, you'd do that because you won't want to get caught.
Murder, but you brought closure to the community, and that's what we're looking for here for Chelan County. And we're not, it was also a grisly murder, but you brought closure to the community up there in Okanagan County with Sheriff Boudreaux that just found the remains down there in Arkansas for taking that suspect into custody, making their community safer. And we just had our agency to the north of us up there in Okanagan County with Sheriff Boudreaux.
What did he say? Okanagan County?
And we just had our agency to the north of us up there in Okanagan County with
I'm going to have to put the subtitles on a minute.
Their community safer. And we just had our agency to the north of us up there in Okanagan County with Sheriff Boudreaux that just found the remains of their homicide suspect from 3 years ago. That was also a grisly murder, but you brought closure to
Oakland County Sheriff Boudreaux. So some suspects they've only just found after years.
The community, and that's what we're looking for here for Chelan County. And we're not taking anything off the table. We recognize there's a possibility he could still be in our area, but there's also the outside of possibility that he's somewhere in our U.S., if not the international territories.
Yeah, and if somebody's helping them, they could be in all kinds of trouble. I'm wondering if you could leave us with a message to the person or the people who are helping Travis Decker. What would you say to them right now?
If they're out there assisting him, it's not going to work out. We're not going to give up. We have men and women in uniform across the United States that are willing and able to take that challenge on alongside us. And he will be taken into custody. And if you're assisting him, you'll sit in court with him.
Wow. And finally, how's the family doing? If you could give me a quick answer.
They're doing as best as possible. I mean, certainly this is a tragic situation. It's not going to be something they recover from anytime soon. I know the Wenatchee Police Department has really been the point of contact with the family, ensuring that they have any information they need. But the Chelan County Sheriff's Office is still here in support of them. We recognize that Paityn, Evelyn, and Olivia's voices are still resonating in our minds, and we won't rest until we have closure to the case.
It's just so devastating, the whole thing. We are wishing you the best, you and your officers, and the U.S.
Oh, I mean, look at these little ones. Just how, and so that's the mum, Whitney. Don't know how she's coping. As I've said before, she must be terrified he's going to turn up to try and get her as well. But would she, she's lost these three girls. She's lost everything that they were going to offer in the future. She won't see them go to school, graduate from school. She won't see them, get boyfriends, get married, have children. She's not going to have any grandchildren unless she has another child with someone. It's just what this man has done is unbelievably cruel and foul. Really is. How they could look those little girls in the face and then do what he did to them. I just don't know.
Marshall, so glad that they are involved. Sheriff, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.
So, yeah. So what? Is he deceased? Do you think he'll be found? Let me know what you think in comments. Do you think he's still alive? Do you think he's in a bunker somewhere? Do you think someone's trying to help him? Or do you think he is deceased and he just hasn't been found yet, like that other person that he was talking about in the neighbouring county that wasn't found for 2 years? Could he, is this going to turn into a case where he won't be found for a couple of years? His remains won't be. Will they ever be found? Because it's hard to find remains, isn't it? I think that's one thing we have learnt, isn't it? That it's hard to find remains. It's not, you don't just go out, even with the cadaver dogs or whatever. You've normally got, especially in areas like that are massive, and then you've got water to deal with. You've got, where is he? Where is this guy? just speechless. Anyway, so I will let you know, of course, anytime there is any news about him, and just a little bit of, it's a very small bit of breaking news, if you like. You know, we were seeing that the guy, Jonathan Rubin, the twonk that has poisoned the children who are alive. And the only good thing we can say about this case is these children did not die. God. Anyway, he's been remanded into custody. So he appeared in court this morning. He's not been released. Thank God. He's been remanded into custody with charged with these child cruelty offences. So he appeared at the Leicester Magistrates Court this morning. Oh, God, why is that doing that? It's acting up. Oh, spinning. Don't know why it's doing this. So he appeared in court this morning and he's been remanded in custody. And he spoke only to confirm his name, his age and his address. And that's it, really. So there's not really much else to say. But the important thing to know is he's not been released on bail. He has been remanded into custody. So, right, let's have something a little bit lighter now. Oh, I know what. Sorry, I haven't shown this. I forgot to show this. This is the hiker, or one of the hikers. I presume there was another one because there's been two sightings, alleged sightings of Travis. This is one of the people that was mistaken for Travis.
5:24 this morning, and it's now been more than a month since the manhunt began for Travis Decker, the man accused of killing his 3 young daughters near Leavenworth. In that time, law enforcement has investigated dozens of reported sightings, including one that led to a large-scale search in Idaho. Now, that search was called off just days ago when U.S. Marshals discovered it was actually not Decker, but a case of mistaken identity. The sighting turned out to be this man who was hiking in the Sawtooth National Forest over the 4th of July.
Thing is, they all look the same, you know, the beard and the stubble and whatever in the baseball cap. If you saw them from a distance, and of course, you know, people that see him, they don't know Travis personally. Travis it'd be easy for him to change his identity. So I think there's going to be a lot of false sightings, unfortunately. But in my personal opinion, I'd be surprised if Travis is still alive, but he could be.
By weekend, he says he wasn't even aware of the search until a friend said something to him when he returned home.
And he sent me a news article, and it described, and I had that photo, and it described a sighting, and this manhunt sparked off out of our campsite when we were there. Your instinct isn't to think that was me. So my first thought was, oh my God, we spent the night next to a murderer. That is frightening.
The hiker, who is only...
Yeah, it didn't even occur to him that the person they were talking about was him. So he's thinking, oh God, we've spent the night next to a murderer, but they were talking about him. You know, it just didn't even cross his mind that he might be the person that they said they'd seen.
Giving his first name, says that he called authorities after learning that the search was focused on him. Officers came to his work and questioned him, then determined the reported sighting was him and not Decker. Despite the circumstances, Nick wants to make it clear that the people who called the tip line did the right thing.
My opinion, I don't really look like the guy. Granted, they saw me from a distance.
Yeah. He doesn't look like him when you get close up to him, but from a distance, of course he looks like him. Sunglasses, baseball cap, stubble or beard. Of course he looks like him. You know, hey, it'd be easy, wouldn't it, to think it was him, seeing him from a distance. Yeah, when you see him close up like that, now we know it's not him, so obviously it's not him, but yeah. Be easy to mistake him for Travis.
But just be careful, because this has been a little bit tumultuous for me and people around me and disruptive at work. Yeah. But I would encourage people to do that
A reward is being offered for information that leads to the arrest of Travis Decker. Right now, it appears there's only been one sighting, which was back on Blewett Pass in June.
No, there's been two. There's definitely been two. And now there's been a third one. So, yeah. God, it'd be awful, wouldn't it, to be mistaken for him as well? You know, because what if somebody decided to take justice into their own hands and try and arrest him? He'd be thinking, what? You know, what the hell's going on?